I want to talk about exactly what they change, exactly what they reveal about President Trump, because in your book, you talk about this over decade-long friendship between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Both of them are these outer borough New York guys. And I want to quote your book. You say this: out of all of Epstein's past associates, Trump has the most to lose and perhaps the most to want to hide. And I asked you about that quote over the summer. You said you still believe it. And you also told me this, that it is disturbing that we are continuing to learn new details about the depth of their relationship. You're saying that these emails change everything. We learned a lot about President Trump. What did you learn about President Trump based on these emails?
Well, what I learned was going back to 2011. At that particular period of time, Donald Trump was moving on from The Apprentice into politics. He was making comments about President Obama and his birther conspiracies. So he was becoming much larger on the national stage. Now, also at that time of a particular email that Jeffrey Epstein wrote, Virginia Giuffre, who had been Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's sex slave for 4 years, came out for the very first time in an interview in the London Sunday Mail, where she disclosed that she had been recruited from Trump's Mar-a-Lago and taken around the world by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and was uh, forced into sexual abuse at the hands of some of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell's rich and powerful individual friends, including Prince Andrew, who, of course, has denied those allegations. However, at the time of that interview, she didn't have anything negative to say about Donald Trump, and she never accused him of wrongdoing. But we have a specific email from Jeffrey Epstein to Maxwell where he talks about the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And that is in essence to the fact that nothing has been heard about him, or he hasn't said anything about this scandal. And Epstein acknowledges to Maxwell that he spent hours in his house with the victim, who the White House has said is indeed Virginia Giuffre. Now, while she hasn't never accused Trump of any wrongdoing, it is particularly questionable as to what Donald Trump was doing with her for hours in Jeffrey Epstein's home. At the time, she was 17 years old. Now, Maxwell responds to this email a few hours later and said that she is wondering about that too. Now, what does she mean by that? She was recently interviewed by Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General down in Florida, as she is making an effort to get clemency and a pardon from President Trump after her conviction for sex trafficking of minors. You have to wonder, why didn't Todd Blanche raise that email and question her about that? So there's a cover-up of some sort, I believe, that's taking place here. And it is very disturbing. And then there's some additional emails that he sent to an author here in New York, Michael Wolff, who really went above and beyond from being a book author and an interview subject to where he was giving advice to Jeffrey Epstein in terms of attempting to take down Donald Trump with information that Jeffrey Epstein had. Jeffrey Epstein, in those emails, talks about the fact that, of course, Trump knew about the girls. He asked Ghislaine to stop. There's also an email that Jeffrey Epstein emailed himself, maybe to put this on the record, thinking that the feds were closing in, where he said Donald Trump knew about all this, although he never had a massage. So we're seeing for the first time in black and white from Jeffrey Epstein the depths of Donald Trump's involvement in their friendship and the fact of what his conduct was while Jeffrey Epstein was involved in this sex trafficking ring for 2 decades.